Good morning, welcome to the Easter edition of the Morning News, and this bulletin is coming to you live from our studio here at Hisawe Kanda in Accra, the numerous affiliates across the country. In Tamale, we're live on KESME 107.1 FM around the world. We're streaming live on 3news.com. My name is George Crane, and top of the stories are calls for stronger value chain sufficiency intensify as Burkina Faso ends tomato export ban.
As sovereignty that should not rely on any other country's ability or decision to provide us food or not.
Also, transport unions and governments engaging after fuel prices surge due to US-Israel-Iran conflict as drivers demand hike in fares.
We have to meet with the transport ministry, the minister and the executives by schedule on coming Tuesday.
And government successfully secures a 7-year cedi-denominated bond auction.
This bond is not just about borrowing, it is about the Ghana government testing whether the trust between itself and the Ghanaian public has returned.
Well, we have details of these and many more coming up shortly. Stay with us. My name is George Crane. Now let's settle for the details of the stories. The Ghanaian government has successfully secured a 7-year cedi-denominated bond auction, raising 3.1 billion cedis from investors. This bond, which carries a coupon rate of 12.5%, is set to mature on March 29, 2033. The bond settlement is scheduled for April 7, 2026, and is expected to be listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange to support active trading. This auction marks the first issuance of a 7-year cedi-denominated bond since 2022 and is seen as a significant step in reopening the domestic bond market, potentially allowing the government to resume long-term borrowing to finance development projects. Here's economist Joe Jackson speaking on TV3's Ghana Tonight. Take a listen.
Let's recognize this, right? That this is not just a transaction, it is a signal. You see, this bond is not just about borrowing, it is about the Ghana government testing whether the trust between itself and the Ghanaian public has returned. Because you see, after the domestic debt exchange, the real question was, will investors ever forgive? Today we have a partial answer.
And you had economist Joe Jackson there, and who was speaking on Ghana Tonight. That was yesterday. And in more news this very morning, coming Tuesday, the government and the transport operators will meet over a possible increase in transport fares. This is after some drivers called for increase in transport fares in the wake of the US and Israel war against Iran. Industrial Relations Officer of the GPRTU, Abbas Imoro, said the unions will table a number of issues, including hike and spare parts. Take a listen.
And the meeting is scheduled on coming Tuesday. We have to meet with the transport ministry, the minister and the executives by schedule on coming Tuesday. Yeah, we are looking at our issues surrounding our business itself. Until we come out with it, we have to finally went up with the transport ministry. You know, recently we have issues surrounding this surplus issue. Insurance premium has been increased.
Abbas Imoro is the Industrial Relations Officer of the GPRTU. Meanwhile, some passengers are opposing this very increment.
It's not a good feeling, but I'm sure the government has a good reason for doing that. We all know what's going on around the world. So I really hope the government would put a good measures in place as with the passengers. Personally, I'm willing to compromise with the government, but he shouldn't disappoint us going further forward.
War that is now ongoing, the US and the Iran war, that has brought this increment. So it's not something that was planned. So we all need to engage and, comport ourselves. We know that they would maybe definitely increase it, but then it shouldn't be as high as maybe it will bring some economic distress to people.
And those were some passengers, opposing the intended increment. And if you're just tuning in, you are listening to the Easter edition of the Morning News with me, Josh Quinn. In more news this morning, calls for stronger value chain sufficiency has intensified as Burkina Faso ends tomato export ban. Burkina Faso on Thursday lifted the ban on the export of fresh tomatoes to Ghana. The move is expected to ease supply shortages and actually stabilize prices on the local market. Here is Dr. Peter Boamo Tukono, the Director of Presidential Initiatives in Agriculture and Agribusiness, talking.
We are growing some portions of the Nabungu, but also growing some portions of the traditional, large ball tomato that is, having a lot of moisture, a lot of water in there, and so on and so forth. So that market is blended. Now, the challenge is that all this production has been largely rain-fed. So we produce only between the seasons of June and November.
And you heard Dr. Peter Boamo Tukono, who is the Director of Presidential Initiatives in Agriculture and Agribusiness. Meanwhile, Chief Executive of the Chamber of Agribusiness, Anthony Morrison, says any extended ban would have pushed the government to ensure stronger local production.
The government-owned Feed Ghana initiatives and agro-industrialization policies, accelerated export development strategies, all required heavily on raw material availability. And as far as we are concerned, the Chamber do respect the call to lift the ban as part of the fact that we exist in the sub-regional trade within the ECOWAS liberalization scheme, which is the ETLS and the AFTA. Ghana's sovereignty should not rely on any other country's ability or decision to provide us food or not.
Anthony Morrison is the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Agribusiness there. And before we part company, organizers of the Kwewu Business Forum say they are expecting over 2,000 participants and exhibitors at this year's event. The event seeks to bring together business leaders and policymakers to explore investment and growth opportunities during the Easter festivities. And already there are reports of an oversubscription. Michael Bodu brings us more on from the grounds.
Behind me is the Kwewu Convention Center. It was birthed out of last year's Kwewu Business Forum. And here is where all the events will be happening. Organizers say the significant patronage last year is expected to reflect even more this time around, and they're expecting high turnouts.
Maximum. It's supposed to be 1,000, but we are currently trying to introduce new seating arrangements. That is not 200 seats to make it 1,200 because we've been oversubscribed, and the nature of the people calling, the personalities involved, and very difficult to say yes, we have oversubscribed, so you cannot get.
We spoke to some participants and exhibitors, and they've been sharing with us the expectations of this year's Kwewu Business Forum.
By the end of the event, or before we leave here, we'll be able to connect with people from all crops of life and then also boom our business. That's the basic reason we are here.
Well, that's how we end today's edition of the Morning News. And before we go, calls for stronger value chain sufficiency intensify as Burkina Faso ends tomato export ban, and transport unions and government engaging after fuel prices surge due to US-Israel-Iran conflict as drivers demand hike in fares. And government successfully secures a 7-year city-denominated bond auction. My name is Josh Quinn. For more news updates, just log on to our website. It's 3news.com. May the miracle of Easter bring us renewed hope, love and peace in all our daily lives. My name is George Quinn. For more news updates, just log on to our website, it's 3news.com. Thanks for listening. It's always a pleasure coming your way. Enjoy your festivities. Bye.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92